Well, welcome everyone to the Remarkable Results Radio Town Hall Academy on, employee reviews, best practices. Ooh, I don't know about you, but that's a interesting, very interesting subject. So we're so happy to want to cover it with our experts here today. And we're also live on Facebook and of course here on our webinar platform. And I want anyone who's watching us on Facebook, please do a share or give us a like. That would be just a wonderful thing. You know, we average about 800-900 of these, after the weekend is done. So we sure do appreciate all of the participation from the industry. And again, what we always do is we take the video and we repurpose it on my YouTube channel, and the Academy audio, the audio podcast of this will be out by this coming Wednesday. So anyone who just loves to listen to the Remarkable Results Radio podcasts, interviews, now they've got the town halls, and they're almost all out. And I'm glad to have you here. You know, Jasper is the sponsor of the Academy. A family keeps their vehicle an average of 11 years. Now, where's the first place to turn when the drivetrain fails? Why, Jasper, of course. A vehicle is a major purchase, and it should be trusted to a 100% associate-owned company for quality remanufactured products. Now, we'd like to have everyone meet our panel. We'll start with the ladies first, or the lady first. Shari Pheasant, the queen of horsepower, is a certified behavior analyst, an entrepreneur, speaker, business innovator, and a coach. She recently returned from a book tour. Wow, I watched you on that. That was great. The book is 25 Car Care Tips for Women. She was on every top-rated channel in every big city. It was amazing. Good for you, Shari. That made it to Amazon. The book, by the way, made it to Amazon's best sellers list this past June. She's a member of the Women in Auto Care and owns a service shop with her husband, Jeff. Shari is the recipient of the Business Innovators Award at the Business Expert Forum at Harvard only just 1 week ago, and congratulations to you on that. She is the creator of Driven from Within, Horse Powered, and Barn Boot Camp, 3 programs that develop human capital potential for business teams and individuals. Shari, with me, episode 68. She was on the 200th retrospective and in episode 91. Now, Rick White. Hey, Rick. Rick's been working in the automotive and software and coaching industries for greater than 30 years and is currently an AMI-approved training instructor. He owned and managed several successful automotive repair shops. Currently, Rick is president and lead coach at 180 Biz, an auto repair shop training and business coaching company, proudly serving the independent auto and truck repair owner since 2006. Rick's been training and speaking at industry events across the country, including Apex Vision and AASP Pennsylvania, just to name a few. Rick and I in episode 242. And Kirk Richardson, he's the guy with the dark beard, and I'm the guy with the light beard. I didn't say gray, did I? Kirk Richardson is a young and successful entrepreneur born into a blue-collar, hardworking family, and at age 22, he left school, started his first business. He bought his first 3-bay shop at the age of 24. 7 years later, he bought his second shop, South Street Auto Care in Rochester, Michigan. Today, at age 34, Kirk is a successful shop owner. He prides himself on his ability to create a family culture within his business, and boy, you've got to listen to him in episode 193 with me, and you'll learn all about when people talk to me, Kirk, and they say, give me an episode on culture, yours is the one that I give them. Very, very powerful business. The culture is a blend of hard work, accountability, and fun, which combines to make loyal and dedicated coworkers. Kirk loves business and people in general, and he talked for hours all about business. And we also have Joe Hansen, the manager of his father's business, Gordy's Garage. Since Joe can remember, he was either sweeping floors, running for parts, or working in the shop. And for the past 10 years or so, he's managing all the operations. Joe has attended Management Success, Napa Training, Lawrence Tech University, and most recently, he's a member of the RLO 20 Group 13. Joe's a veteran of the podcast, episode 177, Academy episode 2 on resolutions, episode 226 on ASA connected cars, He was on Academy 24 on quality controls, and he also joined us on the 200th retrospective. Well, an Illuminary cast. Great to have you all here. I'm always looking for all the papers. You should see what my little desktop looks like here. Rick White, I'd love to ask you the first question. Wow, employee reviews, best practices. Rick, what's the purpose of an evaluation?
Well, I think a lot of us are still stuck 20, 30 years ago when we had an annual review, and that was really the only feedback an employee got. Today, and that's when businesses had 5-year plans. Today, you can't have more than a 1-year plan in a business. Things are changing so fast. And it's a sin for your employees to, the only feedback they get for 51 weeks is a paycheck. That's terrible, because they could be doing things you're not happy with, but if you're giving them a paycheck, that's positive. So you're rewarding the behavior you're getting, even if you're not happy with it. So employee evaluations, I think, are still relevant today, but I think they need to be done differently. It's not about catching people doing things wrong. It's not about punishing people. It shouldn't be tied to compensation. Evaluation should be, I believe, quarterly, and the evaluation should also be geared today more towards goals and objectives to grow that employee both professionally and personally.
I love what you said. It shouldn't be tied to compensation, and let's just hold that up there. I'm sure people on the panel here may want to talk about it, but it's a great point, Rick. Thank you so much. Shari, employee evaluations begin at the interview, you believe?
I do. I believe that's when you start to establish your culture. You start to outline, you should already have their job, their role outlined. If you allow the job to speak for itself, instead of telling you, you need to know you need to have this many tools on hand, or you need to be able to run this program. It's really about soft skills. Soft skills are the hard skills of today. And that's, can you handle a chaotic environment? Do you like dealing with people? And that comes by understanding the scientific evidence of what that job needs and who that person is. So I believe right from the very first conversation you have with employees, you began setting the foundation for your evaluation process and your expectations as a leader.
You just said the word scientific. Would you please help me understand that part?
So that comes from my behavior analyst role. And we all believe we understand ourselves, but there's a scientific method of understanding your how, your why, your acumen, and laying your EQ over that, which really has a total effect on how you relate to people, how you interact with your team, and how you grow your team in knowing what your human capital potential is that exists in your business. You may be missing a piece of that. So we come from a diagnostic and a very data-driven industry. I believe that if we apply that methodology to hiring and to understanding people, we'll learn to connect to the new workforce. Like Rick said, they don't want a boss. They want a coach. They don't want an annual review. They want conversations that are ongoing. They're not just looking for a paycheck. They want a purpose. So the new workforce is demanding that we relook at how we bring them into the company, how we evaluate them, and how we continue to retain our workforce.
Well said, Shari. Thank you. Kirk, she said something that I think you're big on. She mentioned the word soft skills. So when you do a review, it's really not about, you turn a good wrench. It's about other things.
Yeah, I mean, our review process has absolutely nothing to do with how well you turn a wrench. She referenced EQ, right? Emotional quotient. For us, we use the term emotional intelligence all the time internally, and it's all emotional intelligence. It's all, how do you interact with other people? We were talking about, oh, I got a problem. I'm short a part, right? Well, we don't really look at that as like a part problem. We look at it as like a people problem, right? Someone on the other end of that wants their car back, and when we don't have that part, right, now we have an actual people problem. So everything we do from a review standpoint has to do with soft skills, emotional intelligence type things. And we take our 5 core values and we review behaviors against our 5 core values. That's how we do them quarterly, and that's how our reviews are done. It's all soft skills.
Thanks, Kirk. Joe, are you guys at Gordy's doing yearlies, quarterlies? What's going on there?
So we would do a quarterly review, and those would be more of a little bit shorter. And at the end of the year, we'll also do a yearly review. And but that doesn't mean it's like daily. We're constantly working on giving feedback, because to me, you asked what is a review, and to me, it's just constant feedback. Employees want to know how they're doing. They want to know they're doing a good job for you. They want to know that they're meeting expectations. They want to know that their job is safe. So I think that working on daily reviews and just giving them feedback, encouragement, areas of improvement that they can do, that's where it's at. So
thank you for that. Now, some companies, small companies, say, listen, we don't do reviews because we review all the time. Now, that's a great excuse, but you have to actually want to. Is it formal? Is it perpetual reviewing formal, or is it just catching someone doing something right, or is it about redirection? What do you say, gang?
both.
All of the
Sure.
above. I think
Yeah.
it's a combination depending on your culture. If you walk out and a customer, let's say one day, takes you aside and says, Joe was great. Your service advisor, he went out of his way, et cetera, et cetera. You take a little tiny piece of paper, you note it that day, you throw it in his folder. You make these notes because we can't remember everything. There's so much going on in our lives that it's important to document. And I think the casualness of daily or weekly and then a smaller version of quarterly is great. Then the yearly is where you really document, did we reach the goals we were looking for? What are your new goals that we want to achieve in the next year? What's the next level for you? I think that needs to be a little more formal. That way the accountability sticks. So it's important to have the soft touches throughout the year, but then we need to have a formal way of having accountability that sticks.
Well, I agree completely, Sherry. And one of the things that you said was the fact that people are looking for purpose today. When we have our daily discussions or conversations, that's feedback, and that's more about nuts and bolts. Did we get what we wanted? How did you do yesterday? Where did we go with this? But I think the reviews, if you're doing them quarterly, it gives you a chance to kind of step back from the business a little bit and get back into the purpose part of it and keep them engaged and focused on why are they here and what is their contribution. And I think that's really important. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I feedback is we fire for attitude more than we fire for aptitude, because aptitude without attitude is a big fat zero.
Mhm.
You can know everything you need to know about what you do, but if you're not willing to do it, if you don't bring that thriving energy of engagement to the team, you're not helpful to yourself, the business, or anyone else.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I think for it, either feedback or the evaluation process to be effective, you really need to have clear goals and expectations right from the get-go, because they become a ruler that anybody can use to measure how they're doing. It takes the whole process away from the owner's emotional status or state and puts it into how are we doing. And I think that's really important. The other thing I used to do, and because we had job descriptions, every one of us, when I had the shop, including me as the owner. When I did reviews with my employees, a week before I would do their review, I handed them an empty review sheet, and they had to review my performance. They had to let me know how I was doing and where I could improve and those kind of things. It's really important as an owner. We have scotomas. We don't see everything, and we need these different perspectives to help us be the best we can.
I agree with Rick on that, because we do the same thing on the yearly review. We'll hand out roughly a week, sometimes 2 weeks prior to, we'll hand out a form, and it has all the questions on it. Are we things like is our company meeting what our goal is? Are we fulfilling? Are we fixing vehicles right the first time? Are we serving our customers? And it's interesting the feedback you get, because you'll get some that say yes, some that say well, kinda, and you can really learn so much about what we can do as owners better for our employees during that same yearly review process. So it's as valuable to them as I think it is to us, so we can get feedback from each other in a comfortable,
Right.
safe environment. Because at that point, we're asking for it. So that gives them a safe environment to say what they want to say without fear of, backlash, if you will.
Absolutely. And it's important because you don't manage people. Ask my wife. She's been trying to manage me for 14 years. It doesn't work. What we do is we manage agreements. And that's why it's so important to have those things right up front so everybody knows. So now when I'm not getting what I want, I can sit down and say, hey, we talked about this. This is what we were looking for, right? Yep, you said you were going to do this. We're not doing this. What can we do to make it happen? And, reviews aren't to punish. They're not, right? Because when you punish someone, all they do is avoid the behavior that got them in trouble. It doesn't get them doing what you want them to do. So it's a different mindset. Most of us grew up in what I call the compliance era, where it was do it my way or get fired. And today we're looking for commitment from our people, and we're not going to get that by dictating. They have to be part of the process.
Thank you all for this great dialogue, because I was busy. We lost the Facebook feed, so I had to restart it. And you did great, Kirk. You are so big on culture. Can you share with us a little bit? You've got those 5 core values, and give us a scenario as to how your perpetual evaluation works.
Yeah, I mean, I think what everybody's saying here is right. Like, at a minimum, you got to sit down and talk to people. You owe that to them. And for us, like I said, the only thing we discuss is culture. So we sit down and we are literally, and like I believe it's Cherie said, take notes. We write every single thing that we want to discuss in a review down, right? And it's just all this behavioral things that we see. And what happens is we want to align everybody with the same type of behaviors. So we put together something around our core values that is, here's the, kind of the specific behaviors we want to see. Here's behaviors where you might over apply this, and here's behaviors where you might under apply this concept. And from there, we've, and like Cherie said, we've hired and fired based on this. And at this point we have a shop 13, 14 people who all behave in the same way, all value the same type of behaviors. And it makes, and Rick said something about, right, they want to be a part of the process. They want to, you want commitment from them, right? They're the ones who are owning that, right? And they realize that management, me and the other managers in the building will hire and fire on this. And the more you do that, the more they are committed to that process, and the more they're committed to, right, the culture that is defined. And we now get to sit down in these reviews, and they're sort of cupcake reviews at this point, because we get to sit in there for 20 minutes and heap praise on people about how well they behave. And I feel like sometimes I'm an elementary school teacher because we talk about behavior so much, and it does get a little elementary sometimes, because we do have 13 people at this point that
you're enforcing.
They're aimed at, yeah,
you're enforcing. Tell me about the goal piece, everyone. Are we doing just-in-time goal setting, or are we using a formal review process to do that?
Are you asking we as a team or we as an industry? That's a different answer, because I see top shop owners here, but in our industry, if we look at the larger percentage of the shop owners, I don't think we're doing this. No,
They don't have goals.
Well,
No.
Here's the purpose of the academy. We ask the top shop owners, and the industry listens and learns.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really asking that question: what do our coach experts believe that you're helping, and what are our shop owners doing? It's a beautiful team.
So,
we've got 2 coaches and 2 shop owners.
Yeah, I mean, so for us, Matt, I can answer that. We don't have there's no plan when we exit the review for behavior. It's either get on board or get out. And we don't have there's not a long grace period, right? Always the first 3 months, people are a little bit in shock. Honestly, they're like, "What? You guys are real weird." You like each other, and high five each other, and we hug a lot, and it's a strange environment for a lot of men. I'll be honest, and we say get on board. Like, these aren't difficult behaviors. These are decisions you make and how you act. And if you don't fit, you're gone. But we take, so you said just-in-time goal setting. So every single day, technicians have a goal. Every single day, service advisors have a goal. Every single week, they have a goal. Our company has quarterly goals. Our company has 1-year goals, right? We review these at a minimum, once a week, every goal we have in the building. And obviously weekly, daily goals, we review those every single day. The number that our industry is so data rich, so numbers rich, you can constantly put key performance indicators in front of your staff. That's not overwhelmingly challenging.
I love your point. We're so numbers driven, we forget about the soft skills that really make, and I can't hesitate to think that level of concierge, high level of customer service all comes from the behavior of the team and the culture of the company. And the companies that figure that out, wow.
Sure.
Right.
So I wanted to just chime in on that too, is when we're talking about goals for the company, those obviously are very important. But I believe that in order to make the culture right, when you're doing your reviews, that's an excellent time to find out what's going on in that person's life, to find out what they're looking for, right? Maybe they're looking to get a new house or a new car or whatever it might be. And if you can align their personal goals with your business goals and then have that fit into the culture, you just hit it out of the park right there. So
I think that's a great point because, everyone has different goals. A technician is going to be how many cars, how many billable hours. A service advisor is going to be what's your average RO, and what's your labor and parts margins. So there's different goals, but those goals align together. And when you achieve those goals, if you're on a performance-based pay plan, then you're achieving what you just spoke of, their personal goals. You want to get a new car, you want to buy a new house. How can we help up your pay so that you can save a little bit more and make that happen? A lot of companies even have the Christmas fund or savings fund where they take it right out of their paycheck before to help them achieve better financial success. So
wow,
that's an amazing culture.
You just opened up a can of worms. Performance-based pay. I love it. Good. I'm glad you did.
Let's go. Let's rock.
On performance-based pay?
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
Sure.
Yeah, but wait 1 second.
How does it link to evaluations, employee evaluations?
Okay. But let me first say, when a car's engine or transmission fails, it's not the end of the road. A remanufactured drivetrain product from Jasper Engines and Transmissions will give your car a new lease on life. Thank you, Jasper, for allowing us to be here. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Performance-based pay. And how it connects with reviews and the whole company. Who wants to take a stab?
I can start. I'll take and say that I still think that even when you are on performance-based pay, evaluations have nothing to do with it. They have to be set on criteria, and that's what the performance pay is. The whole idea behind performance pay is, first of all, as owners, we're on performance-based pay. If the shop doesn't do well, we're the first ones that don't get paid, right? So the reality is, and I've seen it over and over, and Sherry, I'm sure you have as well, any shop that's being paid either hourly or salary, their production is lower than somebody that's on performance-based pay. And we have this misnomer in our industry that says we can either have it fast or we can have it good, but you can't have both. And that's wrong. You can have both, okay? So the whole idea of performance-based pay is to take and make my goals their goals. It's to help them grow. And the harder they work, reward them for it. The more they put out, reward them for it. They deserve it.
They can give themselves a raise.
Absolutely.
Flat rate, it has to go. We still have it. I bump into it. And the first thing I do is give them the big, oh no, really? You're still on flat rate? And they're like, what do you mean? And I said, well, legally, there starting to be repercussions for that. When an employee leaves after they've been with you for 15 years, they have the right to go back for that 15 years of employment and identify all the times they weren't paid for their time present at your shop, and they're being rewarded by judges, all of that back pay. I know a shop in Southern California that paid over $45,000. That was the negotiated fee because it was more than double that to settle that court case. And I think if you just think of the culture, Kirk, like you're talking about, what protector, provider, and patriarch or matriarch for if you have a female technician wants to come to work, put in hours, and not be paid for that? You need to pay for their time at a basic rate, and then according to their performance, their ASEs, their time with you, all of the other things, and maybe you put in your evaluations. What was your evaluation? Did you get a good evaluation? Are you an employee in good standing? What does that mean? And you identify all those things. That's where the performance-based pay comes in, and you can put your core values and your culture and what you need in your culture as something, a piece of that structure.
Well, I didn't mean to go off on that tangent, and I think that's an entire, academy all on its own. But thank you for bringing that up. And we always love to incite an idea, and and sometimes take the academy to places that it never goes. But I think about the 360-degree review team, and I love the concept of, yes, it's a chance to talk about me, but I also want to talk about my boss. My boss should say, hey, so it's your chance to review me and to review the company. What is your opinion on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We do this. I mean, we do this every quarter. I've got some of my best feedback, from the people I work with reviewing me and our managers. Every quarter we send all of the employees in a room and say, speak truth. Like, don't come in here and sugarcoat it. Don't lie. Like, tell us what it is you think, and where our behavior doesn't line up with our core values. Like, please let us know. I've been told stop talking to customers. Like, they literally told me that. I don't know.
Great.
Right? I know. Joe knows me. Stop talking to customers. I bought a shop, and honestly, it was a rough customer base for a while, and I was just basically like, if you're in here causing problems, like, you're out of here. And and they said, stop doing that. Like, you're causing problems for us. And I'm like, I'm trying, and I was like, well, I'm trying to keep these people away from you. And they're like, let us deal with them. And I was like, yeah, you're right.
But you
guys are
heard
100% right. Yeah.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You heard them.
Sure.
You acted on that. Your leadership skills and your accountability were right where you expect your employees to be. And that's an amazing piece to have in a team.
Kirk, do you believe that the reason that you listened to them is that you were pretty darn self-confident? Self-assured?
Yeah, sure. I also think they're pretty smart people. This is what I've just learned, right? If you look at people and say, hey, here's your role, here's the expectations, I'm not going to get in your way, go do your job, right? People love that. They feel freedom. They want to rise to the occasion, right? And especially when everybody else in the building is held to the same type of standards. I think for us in our industry, and I think I was talking to my buddy about this yesterday, and I think probably most industries, when people do reviews, they're not interested in being honest. They're not interested in, the person like performing the review, right, isn't interested in being honest. They want, false harmony. They want everybody to feel okay. They don't want to create tension. They don't want to push on people. And certainly in our industry, right? I think most shop owners are afraid of losing an employee, right? I don't want to say anything to Joe because Joe's going to quit if I push too hard on Joe. If the culture is, hey, no, we're all going to get pushed on, right? From the leadership, from the owner, all the way down to the guy pushing the broom every day, we're all going to get pushed on. It creates an environment where everybody's okay with that. It does change that dynamic a little bit.
The thing too that you said, Kirk, is that if the culture's right, like in your shop, I've been in your shop, and the culture's right. So when you critique somebody or you're giving them advice, right?
Yep.
That comes from not to sound weird, but from a spirit of you want to of like love or helping.
Sure.
So they understand that. So it's not like they're taking it necessarily personally. They know that it's for the betterment of the whole team. So so I think that when going back to what you're so good at, Kurt, is the culture. If we have the culture right, it's much easier to critique and to give positive feedback. So.
Yep. Yeah. And not taking yourself too serious. I mean, before I left my shop this morning, these guys were making fun of me because they were at a training seminar a year ago, and we were closed on a Saturday, and I was in there working, and I'm fixing cars, and this customer comes in and they need a battery, and it was a reverse terminal battery, and I put the wrong battery in and blew the fuse up, and it was a brand new Honda and whatever. They feel comfortable enough to tell me I'm a crappy mechanic, and in like a true way, like, hey, I as the leader am no greater than you, and we break things and we all screw things up, and we all want to do better. And that has to be the feel if you want to be able to look someone in the eye and say, let me give you some real feedback.
It goes back to what Shari said earlier about EQ. I was at a week-long EQ seminar, if you will, and it really changed me an awful lot. And I think what you're all saying here is performance reviews given by a self-confident, very self-aware individual is going to take on a completely different format as the giver of the review, who's also willing to be the receiver of the review of themselves and the company. And that could be the strongest message coming out of this academy. It's not, yeah, you got to do them. Here's your frequency. Oh, is there a form? It's more of the people, the personal side.
I think it's the, no, go ahead, Rick.
Oh, no, all I was going to say is it's a conversation. And the key word for a successful leader today, the two key words are humility and transparency. It's really what it comes down to. I'm a human being just like you. I don't need you to fluff up my feathers. I'm secure. I know I make mistakes. I can get better, like Kirk said, but I need to see it, and you can help me do that.
Yeah.
And so what I was going to add to that, we're on the same page, Rick, is that you have to understand the context that you bring to the table as leader. And that does require confidence. Carm, you said it earlier in reference to Kirk. When you're confident, then there is no room for ego. And ego is what stops you from being willing to be humble and transparent. As leaders, I think that in the workforce in general, there's been a big push for leaders to be perfect in order for respect to come from employees and vice versa. But that's really disrespectful. We need to respect the humanness of who we are and how we can work together to make things better. And so I think when a leader like Kirk or Joe or Rick, all these guys here, they really emulate that. Look, it's not going to be perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. Let me know what those are. Let's talk about how we move forward from that mistake. And communication is the base to all of that. So I think it's important to remember the context you bring to the table. And in that, our industry is 56% of our 75% of our owners are previous technicians. That mindset of a technician is, I need to figure out the problem. I need to figure it out the first time. It better be right, or it's the part's fault, in a very funny way. Now, if you take that mindset and you apply it to leader, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to get it right. It's going to happen the first time where it's somebody else's fault. If that mindset is happening in the leadership of the company, which I've seen it, it's subconscious. They don't realize it. It's just a pattern of the brain. We're dealing with the brain here. And you have to break that pattern. I think that's what leads to an unhealthy culture, is the leader wants to show, I'm not just a technician. My value used to be in fixing cars. It's not there anymore. I need to identify where my value is. And they step into the business portion, which includes the evaluation portion of leadership of other people. But where's the training in that? Where have we taken the time to shift that mindset to make it healthy leadership? And I think that's really a core principle that if we strengthened in our industry, we'd find much better cultures, more enriched for personal growth in our shops.
And I think that struck a chord with me, what you just said, because when you look at to give a good review and to treat your employees right, you have to be confident, you have to be a leader. And that's a huge lack in this industry. There is so much need for people to become better leaders, probably every industry, but this is the one we're in, so that's what we're talking about. And we sit back and we look at our industry and we say, okay, there's a shortage of skilled help. There's a shortage of all positions being filled in our industry. And quite frankly, it's our fault, right? I mean, me and Kirk have talked about that. And the reason it's our fault is because we've not led properly. We've not maybe treated people the way that we should have treated them, right? So now we're reaping what we've sowed, which is not good. So we're shorthanded. So it's time to change, or people are going to have to just get out, because we have to fix the industry. And it really starts with us on the panel. It starts with every shop owner out there, every technician that's looking to become a shop owner, you got to work. We have to work on ourselves first and become better people so that we can lead people. And the technical part of it will come because people will be attracted to what we're offering. And that's a good culture to work, make a living, support a family, and get into doing something that they'll love doing. So, and it needs to start now. That's for sure, because it's almost like an emergency mode, if you will, when you talk to industry people.
Joe, you just gave me my soundbite.
Yeah, it's awesome because it really does come down to culture. And Kirk, you're dead on, because when you think about it, when you listen to people and millennials talk about the top companies to work for, Google, right, Zappos, and all those other ones, they're the companies that have really dialed in the culture. That's really where it's at, because when we can get that in place, the turning the wrench and the pushing the buttons on a keyboard, those are nothing. Right? I can train a monkey to do that. That's the wrong way to say that. But
not really.
You know,
Grease monkey. Really, we don't want to go there.
You're really making a strong point, although we knew what you meant.
Right.
Yes. Everybody out there works hard, and they're not monkeys.
Okay, so I'm moved by what everyone says. Listen, who's ever watching on Facebook, please share this and or like this, and think about where this Academy episode has gone to places I never expected it to go, because I'm hearing the passion from each one of you, which is why you were all invited to be here. Now, Joe, I loved your passion a few moments ago, and I wrote down a few things, and it's almost taking on a completely different shape. We've got to become better leaders so that we can be better reviewers. And I wrote down, then where do we get the training not only to be better leaders? And Rick, I have to ask you a question, and I want you to hold the answer in your head. Are there enough business coaches in our industry that are doing enough leadership training, or are they doing leadership training as a sidebar, in those private coaching sessions? Hold that thought. And then where is their training? Is there training to do a good review that breeds culture? So, gang, that's what I'm feeling now. What do you think?
I personally believe that there can always be more training, right? I mean, there's always more needed as far as enough coaches, maybe. But if you were to say, are there enough coaches? No. Well, that's a way out. That's a cop out, because as business owners, there's so much material out there. I mean, this is not new stuff that we're talking about. Leadership has been around since the beginning. So if we take if we act responsible for what we're supposed to be doing, we'll go seek that out and figure it out. Leadership is not an automotive thing. It's not an industry specific thing. Leadership is leadership. It's about leading people, right? So we can get that anywhere. You could get that at the library. You can learn that at church. You can learn that from other successful business people. You become a part of groups. I mean, you just look around, you can get it. I think one of the big lacking things, at least for me in the beginning, was you got to be willing to sit down and dedicate time to reading and figuring things out. You can listen to audios all you want. You can watch movies and all that. But you really sit down, if you read, that changes you. That makes you different. And you can reflect on that, what you're reading. And that is what will make the difference. And it's contagious. I mean, the top shop owners that I know, they all read. They read a lot. And we talk about it. We do book studies together. It's just the way it is. And it's normal. And it's great. And we're not perfect, but we're better than what we were. So I think that as leaders, we all have to take that responsibility.
Thanks, Joe.
There's enough out there.
I want to hear from everybody on this subject right now, but I want to share with you an important book that changed me as a leader from John Maxwell, Developing the Leader Within You, way back 1998 or something, of a long time ago. He's probably written 50 books. He's one of the foremost leadership experts. You can sign on to John Maxwell, get his Maxwell message every day, and he serves it up really nice and easy. Great books, John Maxwell on leadership. And I guess that's the point, Joe. Perfect. Go out and start reading and get your own personal development. If you're going to be in this industry for a long, long time, and I go back to last week's thing on succession planning, you just don't decide to sell your business. You have to grow a great business so you can sell a great business, and you need to start on that. But back to I'm sure everybody has a comment based on the leadership piece. Kurt?
Well, I'm sorry. John Maxwell has a great quote that he says, if you think you're a leader and you look around, and no one's following, you're just going out for a walk. So,
and in the first paragraph of that first book that I read has stuck with me my whole life since I read that. And his definition of leadership is this: leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be worth following. I mean, I like so many people think right. I opened a shop, so people are going to come around and do whatever it is I say they're going to do, or when I hire people, they're going to do whatever it is I say. No, they're not. You have to be worth following, and to be worth following, people have to know you're vested in them. People have to know you care about them. People have to know that you think that person's a whole person. They're not just some robot at work, right? How do I know your family? Do I care about your family? Do I care about when do you want to retire? Do I know that if you're a mechanic, you can't work past the age of 50? Am I making sure that your body is rested? I mean, there's so many things that go into this, but you have to be worth following. And the way to be worth, to get people to follow you is actually care about them. Care about them as much as you care about your own well-being or more, and people will follow you. And in our industry, I just talk to shop owners. I interview people constantly, right? I never stop recruiting. It breaks my heart when I talk to technicians who talk about shop owners who don't give a darn about anybody but themselves, right? Like, no one's going to follow you, right? If you care about yourself more than you care about the people you work with.
Well, and Kurt, that comes from a scarcity mindset, wouldn't you say? That the shop owners, their perception of the employees is they don't care for anybody but themselves, because they're in a scarcity mindset where they look at their business as survival. And so it's always looking at what's out there that I can put together. And I think you guys are really hitting on it. It starts with self. To be worth following, you have to start with yourself. You have to understand yourself, know how you're perceived. You have to understand others, and then you have to bridge the gap between you. That's a basis of what I teach, because, as Zig Ziglar said, you build people first. Then people build the business. And so your customer service starts on the inside of your business. It starts with the very first interview when you bring people in, and defining your culture and defining your roles and how you hold them accountable. So, and how you hold yourself accountable. Because if you hold yourself accountable and you set the pace like these gentlemen on this podcast today, then your employees are going to rise to that and be that. If you are the other type of owner that Kurt was talking about, then you are breeding a whole culture that is going to tear your business down. It's going to cause you stress. You're going to make less profits. I know for a fact that employee happiness is the ultimate profit driver, period. End of statement. And if we accept that and we invest into our employees, and we do care about their value system, we care about giving them ownership of our business, we care about understanding how they work, and then how we work scientifically as a team together, that's honoring the uniqueness that we all bring to the table as individuals in the team as a whole.
Right. It's managers, I said this in my podcast, but managers and leaders treat their employees like it's a checkers game. They want them all to move the same way and do the same thing. And it's not. It's a chess game. Everybody's doing something different. And as a leader, I have to orchestrate those moves to achieve the win that I want and that we all want. And, one of the things that I talk about all the time is we're very, very clear that when we're hiring people, we have to be very careful about the questions we ask. We can't ask about family. We can't know about all these different issues. But as soon as they're an employee, you want to know as much as you can about that employee. I used to buy birthday gifts for my employees' children, and they were relevant gifts. I knew he liked Legos, and I got him this big Lego thing, and that makes a difference. It's engaging the employee, showing them that you care about them. Yes, they are there to produce a result, but they're still a human being.
Yeah, they're a whole human being, right? It's
Exactly.
not just work Joe, right? Joe has many interests and things in his life outside of work.
Family.
But I mean, you just said something, Rick, and this isn't to like pick on you, and I know exactly the context and the things you're saying, right? Like I never say my employees, right? I get to work with these people. These aren't like my employees. They're free. They can go anywhere they want. They can do anything they want. They can go get another job in 5 minutes. And I never behave like that's not the case. But it just goes back to, right, the leader has to be worth following, right? But yeah, I mean, it's something that, when I hear that, I always just say, no, like call them coworkers, call them people you work with. They're not your employees. And from a review standpoint, right? You want to sit down and review with someone and say, right, I get to look at them and say, like, I don't think I'm any more important to this business than you. I think there's different value associated. I think I have different skills, but I'm no more important than you, right? So when we sit down in this review, this can be a conversation. You can tell me anything you want. You can tell me anything. Tell me how you feel, right? That's always how we started. How you feeling, right? How do you feel? How is, right, your wife? How are your kids? And that is so important to be, this is to bring it sort of back to reviews, but to be able to get people to, that commitment level, right? It is caring about them as a whole person. So.
Right, and you're right. Thank you for the correction.
Yeah,
it really isn't hierarchical anymore. It is a flatter. It is a flatter
You
playground.
didn't mean it that way.
No, it's okay, because words are what we use today.
Mm-hmm.
Those are our tools.
Yep.
And you're absolutely right. If I call someone an employee, that's really the wrong thing. They're a team member. They're part of the crew.
Yep.
And we're all there doing different functions. And if any one of us is missing, the organism isn't whole.
Correct.
And so you're absolutely right. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah,
A Company of Owners, great book.
Oh, Company of Owners. I haven't heard of that. I'm going to look it up.
No, and I love this. And you guys, this isn't just the automotive industry. I've made some shifts, and I'm back in my own hometown a lot more than I used to be. And we picked up some clients in the insurance industry, the real estate industry, the broker industry, and a fast food franchise. So, and they're having the same problems. So we are not unique in this. We are not a horrible industry. We are not, look, we're awesome. I love this industry. I wouldn't be in it if it wasn't for my husband and my son. And I am so thankful for the men in my life that have opened up this beautiful opportunity for me to work with what I see as the underdog. We work so hard, and our value to the consumer isn't really established like it needs to be. And so, Carm, that's my book. That was that's why I wrote the book. I wanted to get something out there that I could use as a tool, as a give, to be a trusted advisor. And the first thing I tell people is, don't call them on the phone and ask for a quote. The anchor in Chicago was like, "Are you kidding? I do that all the time." And I said, "Why? It's like calling your doctor and asking for a diagnosis over the phone. You can't do that." And so we have a lot of things we're working on as an industry as a whole. So our employee relations, our culture, and our evaluations and interviews of our employees all link into that. It's all connected. If you have a good team with a great culture, you've interviewed from the time you set up their interview with them. And by the way, assessments are EEOC compliant. And larger companies are using them. They don't have to cost a lot to figure out if that person's going to be a right fit for your team before you even hire them. And so we have to invest in developing people more. Investing does bring that value to the table quicker for you, and make things happen. So I think the things we struggle with as an industry, we can surmount if we do it together. And we get together by having better employee evaluations, and you have that by having a better culture. So it's really all 360, from the way we communicate to the way we run our business.
Thanks, Shari. Jasper has over 2,000 associates, 3 manufacturing facilities, 2 distribution centers, and 45 branch offices across the country. They're all working to produce, transport, and deliver the perfect product. That's what they do best. They keep their customers happy. Let me just say this. It almost sounds redundant. Every time I get ready to close off an academy, I say it's gone places that I never expected it to go. And it's true. Joe, you've been on panels before. This went places that I never expected it to go, because you brought your passion. Rick and Kirk and Shari and Joe. Thank you. I took away some fabulous words here: humility, transparency, honesty, leadership. I took away co-worker happiness is the ultimate profit generator. I changed
Employee
the word
happiness. Yep.
I took employee out and I put coworker in there.
Oh,
See,
I like that.
see,
Oh yeah, because no right coworker.
I
I'll change that. I've learned.
Yeah, they're not your employees. Like they can walk out the door.
I like
You get to work with them
So look
for
at
some period of time.
you know, this is off the charts. We need to promote this through and into the industry. Get everyone to listen to the podcast. Rewatch the HD video when it comes out, probably for Tuesday, and let's go around the room and give us your final little summary of you know, the talking points you brought here. Rick, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Carmen. The only point that I didn't get to touch on that I think is really important and prevents people or shop owners from having evaluations is they mistake or confuse the difference between confrontation and conflict. Confrontation is the strongest tool as a manager or leader we have. We use it to address behavior and performance issues. See, confrontation attacks an issue where conflict attacks a person. Confrontation brings an employee that strayed back into the fold, whereas conflict pushes them away. Confrontation is used immediately so we can address the issue, whereas conflict builds up, and then the owner snaps and it all comes out. Confrontation is collaborative. Conflict is singular. It's the owner bursting out at the employees. And if the shop owner, I've worked with so many shop owners through this process, and when they understand that confrontation is their friend, it's amazing what happens to their business. And because we have the 360, the employee has to feel that they can confront the owner. And I said employee, I'm sorry, I'm going to break that habit. It's going to take me a little bit, Greg. But the coworker can come to the owner of the company in the same fashion, because confrontation is to help them get better, right? A true friend will stab you in the front, right? I think Oscar Wilde said that. And that's what we need. So that's it for me.
Thank you, sir. Shari Pheasant.
So I think to go along with that employee evaluation begins at the interview. It's understanding what you're looking for. I think scientific data to do that is important. It helps you get to know people on a much quicker basis. It's like using a diagnostic tool on a car or not. You always want to grab Bob, the diagnostic tool, to use him on a car. You have to have clear and well-defined roles and expectations right from the beginning. Set your goals and direction together. So that 360-degree requires having a company of owners where everybody has value in their perspective and what they see, and being open as a leader to be transparent and humble to learn. Coworker happiness is the ultimate profit driver. See how fast I learned, gentlemen? And I think that's a great point in just getting that message out there strong. And when you make a mistake, because you're going to make mistakes, leaders, shop owners, don't be afraid of them. Embrace them and let everyone lift you up from that mistake to move forward.
Thanks, Shari. Joe.
There's a lot. You guys are amazing. You guys had so many great points. I have a whole page of notes I was taking during the but the one that
always do that. I love it. Yeah, I have to tell you something. I get some emails, of course, from the guests that I've had on the good, Rick.
Kirk does too. I see him writing right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so I've gotten so many emails from guests on the Academy. They say, "Wow, I learned more than anything I said. I took so many great notes." And I need to tell everyone this. When we release the podcast episode, and it has its own page on my website, the talking points are actually there. There could be up to 10 or 12. So if someone's out listening and they say, "Oh, I remember, they got to write that down," I'll bet you if you go back to the show notes page, you'll find the notes, the bullet points already there. So you can literally print that and maybe start using that as a guide, a strategic guide for change. Joe, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm glad.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Cliff notes. Those would be Cliff notes. Those are great. Use those in school.
Yes.
I love them.
Yes.
But the one that stood out for me was what Kirk said. He says we have to be worth following, right? And that comes from an attitude of responsibility. So in order to attract people into this industry and to give positive feedback and positive reviews so that people want to stay in the industry, right? Because they succeed. We have to be responsible for growing ourselves as leaders. And that to me is the biggest lack that is out there right now, is we have to work on ourselves to create an industry that attracts people in, and then we can succeed together, right? But if we don't do that and people don't want to follow us into this industry, it's going to be a rough deal for us. So my thing is we have to take responsibility for where we're at with this industry.
Thank you, Joe. Kirk, you get the last word.
Yeah, great. I'm gonna share a little review story. So I bought a shop 3.5 years ago. There's a gentleman that worked there for 30 years, and he was a grumpy jerk, honestly. And he just was. And I remember the first review we did. I sat in a room with this guy, and I said, "You're a grumpy jerk, and his behavior is just not going to be tolerated." And he started crying. Like, this is a grown, rough and tough, 38-year-old man just crying. And I'm like, oh boy, like thinking what he's like, no one's ever had like the courage to look me in the eye and say, you're not nearly as tough as you like present. And the behavior you exhibit doesn't work here, and it won't work here. And, just being able to be honest with that guy, like, he knew I cared about him, and he knew I cared about everybody in that company. Literally within 9 months of me taking that company over, his wife sent me a card. She actually called me on the phone as well and said, "Thank you so much." Like the fact that you looked such and such in the eye and said, "Hey, no more being a jerk," has changed our whole life, right? This card, I have a few cards hanging on my wall, but that card hangs on my wall, and it's all from reviews. It's all from looking at people and saying, like, here's an honest assessment from an outside view because I care about you, right? And that changed that guy's life dramatically. Young guy with kids. I mean, guy with young kids, man, just changed the whole direction. She's like, he comes home from work now, and I don't need to give him an hour to sit on the couch and not talk to anybody, right? Because you just looked at him and said, "Hey, man, here's the truth. You're a jerk, and stop being that way. You're the one choosing to be that way." So, that's the power. It's just a story about the power of reviews, and looking someone in the eye and saying, "Here's the truth."
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Carm,
you.
for everything
Thanks,
you
Carm.
do.
Appreciate
This
it.
is possible because of you. So
Thanks,
thanks
guys.
for continuing to move the pin on the industry.
Thanks, Ari. Thank you
Yeah.
all. Have a great weekend.